Hello, ghosties. I'm Chance Lee.
And I'm Amanda McAvoy.
And this is That's So Gothic, a movie podcast about girls, guys, and haunted houses. And today's episode is about a movie with the most house I think I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah.
It's The Haunting.
There once was a house, a bright, happy home. Something bad happened. Now it sits all alone.
Is this where you're going?
That's Hill House. It's perfect, isn't it? You all suffer from sleep disorders. My job is to find out why.
What's the deal with the Addams family mansion? I gotta be honest, I don't get a real strong sleep vibe from this place.
Don't you love it here? This is so twisted.
Calling it an insomnia study allows me to create a highly suggestive environment to observe the dynamics of fear. You don't tell the rats they're actually in a maze.
I just think Dr. Marrow's up to something.
Have you ever kept something to yourself because you were afraid?
All the time.
I'm sorry.
You scared the
Oh my God, what's happening?
None of this is real.
Oh, it is real.
Released in 1999, The Haunting was directed by Jan de Bont. It was written by David Self, and it stars Lili Taylor as Nell, a sad, lonely Boston woman. Catherine Zeta-Jones as Theo, a sexy bisexual. Liam Neeson as Dr. Marrow, a sleep scientist. And Owen Wilson as Luke.
Love him. So happy.
Which is the name of his brother.
Yes, yeah. I'm
And
sure that
this
wasn't
is
confusing.
I know, I was like, what a choice. This is the story of a bunch of insomniacs spending a few nights in a haunted house in the name of science.
Mm-hmm.
So this movie made a shit ton of money in 1999. It made over $180 million against an $80 million budget, but almost everybody hated it. It has a 17% critical tomato and a 28% audience tomato.
Oh, really? I'm surprised that, like, I totally understand the critics. Like, this is not a movie for critics, but I'm a little bit surprised at how low the audience tomato is. I don't know. I'd give it a couple extra, put it closer to the 50%.
Yeah, I was surprised too. I wonder if
Yeah.
it's just that, like, there were a bunch of negative reviews and no one really watches it anymore. I feel like
Yeah.
no one really knows this movie exists. But oddly, Roger Ebert gave it 3 stars.
Oh.
He didn't, even though he didn't really seem to like it, he just really liked the set design. And he said that the cavernous halls and ominous corridors of the house reverberate with great groaning, echoing noises as if the house has gas pains. But he meant that as a compliment.
I wish people talk about my gas pains in such a complimentary way, because that's very sweet.
I'm going to say, oh, my ominous corridors are reverberating.
It's beautiful.
This movie was nominated for a host of Golden Raspberry Awards, the worst awards.
Really?
I hate the Raspberry Awards.
Yeah.
I think they're so asinine. And one of the awards that it was nominated for was Worst Screen Couple for Lili Taylor and Catherine Zeta-Jones, because it wouldn't be the Razzies if it wasn't like both a bit misogynistic and
Yeah.
homophobic at the
Yeah.
same time.
Exactly. That is so rude.
Yes. Like, it's just so random.
Yeah.
Because I was looking up the history of that award.
Mhm.
The winner of that award in 1994 were Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt for Interview with the Vampire.
Wow. Homophobic.
hmm And in another year, I forgot to look up the year, but they gave the award to Pamela Anderson's boobs in Barbed Wire.
Stop it. How could you ever say that they're the worst?
I know, right?
They're
They're
like
like the
perfectly symmetrical.
and they're one of the best features of that movie. Have you
Exactly.
ever, as a quick side note, have you ever seen Barbed Wire?
No, I don't think I have. I've
Did
seen the outfit quite a bit.
keep that outfit in mind when I ask you
Okay.
this question. Did you know that Barbed Wire is a loose remake of Casablanca?
Stop it. Stop it.
It is. I couldn't make that up. And she's the Humphrey Bogart character.
No. Nothing could have prepared me for that.
Yeah. Imagine if like Humphrey Bogart in Casablanca had like a steamy shower scene by
Oh
himself.
my God.
And you kind of get Barbed Wire.
Do you think that we could talk about that movie someday? Because that is.
It's kind of worth a watch.
Okay.
Yeah. But The Haunting was also nominated for Worst Picture of the Year for 1999.
Okay.
The winner of the Worst Picture Razzie was Wild Wild West.
Rude. Well,
I've never
I get
seen
it.
that.
That is one that I think I might have seen in theaters, or at least around the time. All I remember is, didn't they have like a huge promotion with McDonald's?
Probably.
Yeah, I remember that so vividly. And I think probably Pepsi was involved. I have a family member who works for Pepsi, and it was like huge. I just saw the advertisements everywhere. And I was only like 6 or 7, so but anyways, I don't think I've watched it recently, so I could see it as being bad.
That was in the era of Will Smith summer blockbusters.
Yeah, big time.
What surprised me, nominated for Worst Picture 1999, was the Blair Witch Project.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I feel like they just
misfire.
Yeah, I feel like they just wanted to, like, I don't know, talk about it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people made fun of that movie too. It got spoofed a lot, so
Yeah.
yeah.
But enough about the Razzies, they suck. Did you also see The Haunting in theaters?
I don't think I saw it in theaters, but when I was watching it for this, I was like, I remember this. Like, I think I watched it like before a point when I really started caring about movies, but I liked watching horror movies. I'm pretty sure I've seen it, but I can't imagine I saw it in theaters because I would have been young.
Okay. I had never seen it before, but I felt like I had, because with a movie of this size budget and the special effects were such a big deal.
Yeah.
I would watch exclamation point
Oh,
a
okay.
lot at this time,
Yeah.
and I feel like I saw behind the scenes of The Haunting or something, because there's a scene where Lili Taylor's character is pinned to the bed by the headboard that comes alive, and I remember seeing that very vividly.
Oh, interesting.
In like an special or something.
Huh. Yeah, I could see them doing that.
And it was kind of a big deal that Catherine Zeta-Jones's character was bisexual. Like, that was kind of scandalous at the time.
Yeah, and it's not implied. She says she has a boyfriend and a girlfriend. So for 1999, I can imagine that was very scandalous.
Very risque. But this is based on a novel. It's based on a novel by Shirley Jackson. I only know the lottery, the stoning story.
Yeah, I actually don't think I've ever read that. I know that I've read this book, The Haunting of Hill House, but I think not a long time ago, but a good while ago. And I read her other book, The We Have Always Lived in the Castle, vaguely more recently. And I think I get that mixed up a lot with The Haunting of Hill House. So it's all a little bit of a blur to me.
Yeah, she has that gothic vibe,
Yeah, she's a gothic
many
lady,
would say.
a gothic
But
gal.
both but are two of our most famous Stevens, King and Spielberg, were big
Mm-hmm.
fans of this book.
Oh,
And this movie originally began as a collaboration between the two to do the
wow.
movie. But they broke up
Oh,
during the production because Spielberg wanted more thrills and action and King wanted more horror,
I was
according to
gonna
the
say
Wikipedia page.
that I believe that wholeheartedly. That sounds exactly
Mhm.
like their MO. If it had been reversed, I'd be like, no way. But yeah.
This feels very Spielbergy, even though he technically had nothing to do with the final product. It was still
Mm-hmm.
DreamWorks, which was his studio.
Right.
And then King kind of retooled what they were working on into the Rose Red miniseries, which I never saw.
Ah, okay. I've never watched that. But I've heard of it. That makes sense. Because I don't really have we ever talked about a Stephen King adaptation?
I don't think so.
I don't really like associate Stephen King with like these more like haunted house. Like obviously he has like The Shining and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
I don't really associate him with like haunting, like gothic. Well, because
Mhm.
like also you don't really associate him with like big, huge castles and like old, he's kind of so um I don't necessarily see a whole lot of him in this movie. And I assuming that there's, that's the reason for it.
Also, he doesn't write female characters very well, and I
Yeah.
associate a strong female character with the gothic. So
Yes, that's true.
his Stephen King's female characters, like their emotions are telegraphed through their nipples. Have you ever noticed that?
I don't think I have, but I'll start looking for it.
Whenever you read a Stephen King book, just be on
Mm,
nipple watch because
really?
a lot of times if a female character is scared, they'll like retract
Ooh,
or like, if they're aroused, they get all
yeah.
pointy. Like he's a nipple man and he is very
Really?
focused on the power of the female nipple,
Yeah,
Mr. King.
yeah, the horror of the areola.
Mhm, mhm.
Interesting.
I don't think Stephen King would want to free the nipple because to him, yeah, they are this source of great power.
Got to keep them covered.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, this movie has a pretty stacked cast,
Hmm.
especially for 99.
Yeah.
The lead is played by Lily Taylor, who is probably the least famous of everyone.
Yeah.
I have always really enjoyed her because she was in this movie called I Shot Andy Warhol in the
Mm.
90s, where she played Valerie Solanas, this crazy lesbian who shot Andy Warhol in real life.
Oh,
And she's just so fucking good in that movie.
really?
And I find her really, really good in this movie, even though the script doesn't seem to know what her character is doing most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't think I know her from anything. I don't know if she's been in any other like more popular movies. But I agree with you that, you know, I think again, I read the book a long time ago, so I don't know exactly, but I think they almost made her very similar to the book character, like even in some of her dialogue. And I don't
Mm,
think it translated well to this 90s film that takes place in the 90s, starring alongside like Owen Wilson. So she has this
mhm,
very like breathy, like, she is this, she's supposed to be kind of this like, what's the word? Like very guarded, very sheltered,
mhm,
woman. She's never really experienced a whole lot in her life. She has this really weird like monologue about how like she's never had an adventure, and she like associates adventures with like, I think she says like criminals or something, and she's like, and then who would have thought like $5 worth of gas would get me to this adventure? Like it feels very like, I don't know, like um Betty Boop. Like she's just like, oh,
Yes.
I can't. She plays a very bizarre character, and I think
Betty
it's a
Boop by
mix.
way of Flannery O'Connor.
Yes, exactly. Like I think she's supposed to be playing weird and sheltered and like not completely um all there, you know. She's supposed to
Mhm.
be this like fragile. That's the whole point of like the movie and the character and the experience, but I think it doesn't translate to the movie that they're doing. So I feel kind of like bad for her because yeah, like you said, I don't think the script really works with
No.
what she's supposed to be. And there are just parts of it that I have no idea how she comes to certain decisions, how she like figures out things. There's a lot of parts where I'm like, were we as the audience supposed to know that? But it doesn't seem like we were. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, I liked the setup of it. I liked the
Mm-hmm.
early bits of the movie,
Yes.
and then I did read that they had to reshoot the ending. The
Oh,
studio
really?
demanded a different ending after some test
Hmm.
screening. So I would love to know what the original ending was.
Yeah.
Maybe it made a little more sense, but yeah, I just kept thinking about her because she was this indie darling,
Oh,
and
really?
getting cast in this $80 million
Mm.
blockbuster movie, one has to be really cool, but also just really intimidating.
Right.
And yeah, I feel like she never, I mean, her career never quite took off.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, her paired with these three, I mean, like top of their fame, you know,
Hmm.
actors and actress, like it must have been um I don't want to say it was intimidating for her, but like it's a lot to like it's a lot of pressure to be under because you know people are going to
Yes.
see that movie because of the people who are cast in it alongside you.
Yes. Yeah. This was
Mhm.
like Catherine Zeta-Jones was
Yes.
flying high. She is so fucking hot in this
Oh
movie.
my god, she is just like my like I like the bi panic of like her, and then like I love Owen Wilson so much. I love him so much in this movie too. Like just I just love them so much. And she's just like so charismatic and does such a good job with the movie, and I think she does a good job with like the character she was given. I think she was like perfectly cast. She was maybe the only person in this movie who was perfectly cast.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. She's there to just be kind of smoking hot. Like that's her
Yeah.
whole purpose,
Right.
and it succeeds. I watched this movie in an Airbnb on a TV that was mounted on the wall, but looked like it might have fallen off the wall at some point because it had this vertical line of dead
Oh.
pixels in the
Yep.
middle, and I feel like Catherine Zeta-Jones definitely like popped a few more pixels like whenever she showed up on the screen. I couldn't
she's,
believe how pretty she was in
oh,
this.
she's so gorgeous.
She's so gorgeous. And yeah, she's just none of the characters really have a purpose.
Hmm.
She plays Theo, she's there to be hot
Yep.
and bisexual, as we said.
Hmm.
And then we have Owen Wilson, who plays Luke, who
Hmm.
is just like the guy. Is
Yeah.
there more to him?
He's just the guy. He's kind of comedic relief. um
Mhm.
yeah, he's just the guy. He's like kind of like, it's funny because he's not even really all that stupid. Like he's actually, he kind of figures
Right.
out what is happening, like the rational part of it, or I shouldn't say rational, but the real part of it, he figures all that out. um but yeah, he's just kind of the dude. He thinks that Catherine Zeta, he's the audience, he's the stand-in for the audience because he thinks Catherine Zeta Jones is super hot too.
Yes.
So that's what he is.
He's there to prove, that this isn't just some creepy lesbian fest. There's straight people
Right.
in the movie
Of
too.
course, of course. He's the straight
So
representation.
the biggest scene for me for him is there's a scene where he's laying on the couch and he's like shooting candy into his mouth with a
Mm.
little gun,
Yeah.
and I didn't know what it was, and I found a Reddit post
Okay.
from 8 years ago.
Oh my God.
What's the candy dispenser Owen Wilson uses in The Haunting? And
I
here's how
love
they
Reddit.
describe it. They describe it as a vaguely chicken-shaped dispenser with more images of chickens on the side. You can hear a small motor whirring, and it launches candy out into his mouth. This post got no interaction for 7 years.
Oh.
And then some random person, not the original poster, just comments bump, and the OP jumps in and says, "I've never figured it out." And then the next comment says, "It's a Sweet Tarts spitter," which is
What?
not something I heard of. And then the OP says, "Wow, it's finally been solved after 7 years. It's a Sweet Tarts spitter. It's the yellow bee."
Oh my God. I love
So
Reddit. I
if
don't use Reddit, but I love it.
it's just so funny to me. Like, if we had talked about this movie 2 years ago, I would be
Right?
like, I don't know what that candy gun is.
Seriously. Oh my God. What did you say? Yellow.
It's the yellow bee Sweet Tarts spitter.
Okay. Oh,
But
yep.
then when I Google that, I just see the Reddit post.
It's okay. I found one on eBay. It's only $15.39. Oh, it's been sold. Damn it. But it sold for
Maybe
$15.39.
that guy bought it. Maybe the guy
Maybe
bought it.
it was bought on February. Anyways, incredible.
Yeah, it just seems like such a choking hazard. Like,
Yeah.
that's the true story of The Haunting. Everybody's dead because they choked on the candy from the candy gun.
Seriously.
They haunt the house.
Oh my God. Oh, that's good.
And then last, and to me least, because
Mm,
I'm not a fan, is Liam Neeson.
yeah. So he's his like nationality, his like typical day to day is he's Irish, correct?
I think so.
And I can't tell if he kept his Irish accent for this or if he was trying to do American and some Irish slipped out. I don't know.
It exists in this weird middle ground.
Yeah, it's a little bizarre.
And like all the other characters, his character serves no purpose.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's just like the catalyst and then is there.
Yeah.
I have to mention in one scene is Virginia Madsen.
Oh, who is she?
She's Lily Taylor's sister at the beginning of the movie.
Oh.
I don't know who she owed a favor to or why she's in this movie. I kept expecting her to come back, at least like on the phone or, split screen or something.
Yes.
Like, why is Virginia Madsen playing this completely useless character?
Yeah, seriously. I know. And before, I mean, I didn't even know it was Virginia Madsen, and I still thought the character was going to come back for some reason. So it's even funnier now that she didn't.
Very strange.
Yeah.
And then I was looking up. So Liam Neeson's character has 2 assistants.
Okay.
Mary and Todd. And Mary, I liked Mary a lot.
Yeah.
And I was disappointed that she never came back after her eyeball almost gets taken out by a snapping piano wire, which is a great scene.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
She didn't seem to be anyone that's like had a career, but Todd is Todd Field, director of Tar.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so bizarre. Did he do a lot of acting? Did you look?
He did. The reason I looked him up is because I felt like I had seen him in something.
Yeah.
But maybe I just seen him in like an interview talking about Tar.
Right.
Like he did do
weird.
a few like B-level roles.
Yeah.
But then he started directing movies.
That's
And
so
now he's
funny.
known as a director.
Wow. Good for him, I guess.
Sure. And then, I mean, upgrade for sure. He gets nothing to do. I thought he would come back too. He goes to take Mary away and neither of them
Neither of them. They're gone. Out of here.
And then our director is Jan de Bont, and he is probably best known for Speed.
Oh, okay.
And Twister.
Ooh, fun.
which is getting a sequel soon.
Oh, okay.
It may be this summer. It's called Twisters. There's more than
Ooh.
one. Yeah.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah. And then he had previously worked as cinematographer with Paul Verhoeven.
Oh.
So he's the one who like shot up Sharon Stone's skirt in Basic Instinct and
Oh.
um so,
Okay.
yeah.
I feel less good about that then. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he might not have been the one holding the camera, to be
Yeah.
fair.
Right.
But yeah, he did work with Verhoeven. And then
Mm.
he hasn't done a movie since 2003,
Hmm.
which is when he did the really bad Tomb Raider sequel.
Oh. Ooh. Yeah. I don't blame him for hanging up his hat.
Yeah, but Speed is good.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen Speed. That's Sandra Bullock in the bus.
Sandra Bullock, Keanu Reeves in the bus. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually watched that.
It's a stone cold classic.
Yeah. Okay.
Love Speed. Still
Yeah.
holds up today. Yeah.
Interesting. I'll watch it after. I still have to watch Point Break and then I'll watch Speed.
Oh, Point Break is fun too.
Yeah, that's Keanu Reeves, right?
Also Keanu Reeves.
Yeah. Yeah.
That one's directed by James Cameron's ex-wife,
Oh,
who should have a name. He
yeah.
shouldn't be calling her James Cameron's ex-wife. Catherine Bigelow.
Oh, okay. Okay.
She did Point
Hmm.
Break.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the gothic elements of The
Mm,
Haunting.
yes.
All gothic films have four elements: a girl, a guy, a house, and a haunt. And Nell is our girl.
She's the girl. She's it.
I think she's a really like textbook gothic girl, especially with
Yeah.
the monologue you mentioned. That was one of the
Hmm.
quotes that I noted. I thought adventure would never happen to me.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, she really is.
And weirdly, that's something I related to. I'm like, if I was her in this situation, I'd be like, "Oh my god, finally. Like,
Yes. Right?
finally something interesting has happened in my life."
Yes. I know. And I will say, like, I liked sort of her character in that there are aspects. I mean, you brought it up earlier, the part where she gets like pinned down by the headboard. Obviously, she was like horrified at that point. But a lot of the movie, she's not scared. She's, excited about the prospects. Even when she like sees the creepy little ghost children, she's just like, "Hi, like, what's the matter?" Like, and
She
I
talks to them.
yeah,
She
she's
goes
just like,
towards the creepy noises. Yeah.
right, yeah, what the heck? What are you doing? At one point, Theo is screaming, and she like comes and runs, and helps her, comforts her. Like she's kind of,
Mhm.
you know, she's actively participating in the events that are happening around her, and I think that makes her a very interesting gothic girl.
And it gives her character something to do.
Mm-hmm.
The the movie completely falls apart to me about, I don't know, an hour into it. It's a
Yeah,
long movie. It's like 2
it
hours long.
is, and it feels long.
It feels long because it kinda just turns into supernatural chase sequence one after the other,
Yeah, yeah.
and some of them are kind of interesting, but then the way this movie ties up, I audibly groaned when,
Yes.
like, and I might get this wrong because this was short-circuiting my brain that this was the
Yeah.
direction they decided to go in, but Mr. Crane, Hugo Crane is the former owner of this manor,
Mm-hmm.
and also her grandfather?
Great grandfather.
Great-grandfather?
Yeah.
Anyway, ancestor, and he also, like, loved killing children, I guess,
Yes.
and the children, though, are her brothers and sister. I don't know.
Yeah.
She
They'd
thinks
be.
they're
Yeah.
related. She takes it upon herself to save, but there's a part where she literally says, "It's all about family," in this, like,
Yeah.
CG whirlwind.
Yep. Yeah. It's again, that's what I was kind of talking about at the top, where it was like, because also I think she just kind of knows this. Like,
It's never clear how she comes to
yeah,
realize
there's,
this, and it does feel like a reshot ending because of that.
yes, yes. And because that's what I was wondering when you said that they reshot the ending. Is I was like, I feel like they probably tried to tie it more into her, because the setup's really cool. You had mentioned that, and I like the fact that she had sort of this trauma with, and she kind of touches on it, where she was taking care of her sick mother, but her sick mother was, it's implied that she was like emotionally abusive and very demanding of her. But I don't think that they necessarily needed to take that and be like, okay, let's make it full circle and make her want to love and support her like these children. Like, it was very bizarre. But yeah, that's what I was saying, where it's like a lot of stuff just sort of happens at the end, and there are a lot of ways that they could have explained it without her just sort of knowing, but that's just the direction they took. There's this cool scene where she stumbles on the Crane, Mr. Crane's like study. It's behind a creepy old bookcase, because like, of course it is. And because the other thing she keeps bringing up is that he had a second wife, and this was like a huge revelation, and I don't know why it was. I still don't. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Right. And she could have found out something else in that study that would have been more clear. Yeah. The end gets very weird and convoluted, and it also gets just like way too dramatic for what it is. Like, the movie lost me when I think it's implied she's going to kill herself. Nell is going to kill herself by jumping off the thing in the greenhouse. And then, which I hated that in general, because like, she's in this weird fugue state, and it's very out of her character. So like, I don't know if it's supposed to be implied that she's possessed or what. And like, this is the part where I was kind of like, she's losing me here. So she's gonna like kill herself so that she can be with the children. And this is like midway through the movie. This isn't the end of the movie. And then Liam Neeson as the doctor starts climbing up the spiral staircase. And then it's a mixture of the spiral staircase, I think, being old, and then also the ghost like undoing the bolts. So the stairs start like crumbling around him, and it's so dramatic. And it's just like, I was watching it and I was like, this is so dramatic. And for what? For why? Why is this so? I felt like I was watching a Michael Bay movie. Like, it was just, it lost me. And then a lot of the scenes after that sort of are similar, and that it's just like so over the top. But going back to her being a gothic girl, I mean, I think she fits the bill. I wish that she had had more development of her like figuring out how these things are happening.
Yeah.
As opposed to just sort of knowing. It's really weird.
She has a lot of curiosity, but no real agency.
Yeah. Yes, that's a really good way to put it.
And with that greenhouse scene,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's so extreme. Again, the set design is real. I feel like the sets are designed just to be cool, and then to have these set pieces. So it's not even that it's a spiral staircase. It's like this double helix spiral staircase. It's like two of them.
Right.
For I don't know, watering really high plants. I don't know why. And then she's on this catwalk up at the top.
Yeah.
And he gets to her, and then next thing you know, they just flash forward to her being in bed. I had to rewind. How did they get down?
How did they get down? Is there another set of stairs he could have taken?
Like, if so, why didn't he just take those?
Why did he just take those?
How did they get down?
Yeah, because he knows that they're dangerous like a quarter of the way up, and yet he keeps going because he's like, I gotta get her. So freaking bizarre.
Very strange. And then the fact that they put this random suicide thing in, and then and they still have her die at the end. She sacrifices herself for she just kind of dies. Like, she just like dies to the ghost.
Yeah.
And
like, she doesn't...
and again, it's like, I have to know what the real ending was, because clearly she died somehow, because she's not in these final scenes, and they must have redid how she died. Like, and the family thing sent me spiraling, because
oh my God,
it made me think of the time that I was flipping the channels. This was years ago when I still flipped channels. So like 2014, 2015, maybe. And the first Suicide Squad movie was on some movie channel that I had. And Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, they're fighting this big CGI demon, and she has her baseball bat, and she says something. I feel like her phrase literally says like, it's about the power of friendship. And then she
Oh.
like, and I'm like, this is like an R-rated Suicide Squad movie. Why is it about the power of friendship? And so I Googled why is family a theme in so many movies.
Yeah.
And I found this kind of rambling article on something called the movieblog.com.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called Why Are Modern Blockbusters So Preoccupied with the Notion of Family? And they use the obvious example, which is Fast and the Furious, but but also Guardians of the Galaxy and some other ones. And I like what they said here. So this is the conclusion. And they say that family is one of the most basic and relatable themes. It's a safe subject. And regardless of an individual's political orientation, most audience members can agree that family is a good thing and forge an emotional connection to the idea of family as a driving character motivation. Everybody has a family, blah, blah, blah. And so these films can explore these themes in ways that do not run the risk of upsetting audience members with strong political conventions one way or another. And I was like, that makes sense. Like, let's just, I want to know what the ending was because they replaced it with the lowest common denominator ending.
Right. And it sucks too because one of the sort of better, more emotional parts of the movie is I feel like she's like trying to kill herself like multiple times or talking about it or like whatever. Because there's a part where she's like, I think talking about it or like staying behind with the children or something. And Catherine Zeta-Jones says that, she's like getting emotional and she's like, come on now, like, let's just go, we can go back to your apartment. And she's like, I don't have an apartment. I don't have a home. And then Catherine Zeta-Jones is like, you can come back with me to my penthouse. Like, you'll love it. And so I think it would have been really sweet. Yeah. Again, like, I think she had to die for the story. But like, if it had focused more on like this found family, like, and maybe that's how it was supposed to end, is she was going to sacrifice herself to save Liam Neeson and Catherine Zeta-Jones, and it was more about the found family as opposed to these vaguely related great relatives. Why?
Right, to theoretically protect them in the afterlife from a ghost that's still trying to kill them, even though they're all ghosts.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry. If my great-great-grandparent came to me as a ghost and was like, could you die to help me? I'd be like, actually, I have some stuff I need to do down here.
Yeah, like, I'll be there in hopefully like 50 years.
Yeah, thanks. Right. Yeah, check back in a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you've waited this long, Yes. Do you think maybe you could just, And then, because there's that whole weird aspect too of like, I think what turns the table for her is, so this group of children hijacked a phone and was the one who contacted her to be a part of the study.
Using the voice of Liam Neeson. They're like the ghosts of the Jerky Boys, like doing a crank call. This whole thing was just a Jerky Boys prank. It was the crank yankers. It was some puppet on the side.
I mean, literally, it's so funny. It's like supposed to be this like huge revelation, this emotional moment, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how did they get access to a phone? It's so weird.
Yeah,
it's so weird.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
but she tries.
She does, and again, with all of the teasing, that's more about, I think, the concept of the story. I think that it is a cool character. And I do like her. And again, like, going back to, she's supposed to be this like kind of sheltered, naive person who has, just been taking care of her mother for all of these years. I really like, she has this really like cool line, like impactful line where her sister says something like, you have no idea how hard it is out there. And she says, you have no idea how hard it was in here, like talking about being with their mother. So she's obviously gone through a lot. She's a strong lady. I like her.
Yeah, I think I ended up being disappointed because the first hour of this movie, I'm like, why does everybody hate this
Yeah.
movie? I was kind of into it. I love the
Yes.
set design, and I really liked her character, Nell.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it falls apart so fast.
It went crazy.
And
It's so
then
funny.
I don't think we really have a strong gothic guy. Like the best one that fits it is the Liam Neeson character, but he's
Right.
just so dumb and useless.
Yeah. And again, it's like, does he even count? Because he wasn't the one who technically got her into this house. Like,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, his one cool, like, I guess kind of like arc, his purpose is that so he gets them to the house under the guise of a science, like a sleep insomnia sort of
Mhm.
trial thing, and he's like, oh, it just happens to be at this weird creepy house. Whoa, so strange. But he is really testing them for, and I think this is very true to the book. He is actually like studying the science of fear. So I mean, like that's again like a cool concept, but it's not really, I can't even say it's not fleshed out because it kind of is, but it's just like it, when everything falls apart, that just kind of falls apart.
It doesn't
Um,
amount to anything.
yeah, I will say I like at the end when it's him and Catherine Zeta-Jones out front, and the caretakers come and lock them out. You know, first of all, this caretaker, the guy is such a dick, like such an asshole, and he says, you know,
He's also Bruce Dern.
Bruce Stern, who's that?
Laura Dern's dad.
Stop it. Who's casting this movie?
I know.
Weird.
I know.
Oh my god. But I like it when he goes to take them out and they're like, they look just like exhausted and they look annoyed actually more than anything. But he says, you know, first of all, the wife says something like, oh, city folk. And he says, you know, did you get the answers you were looking for? I thought that was like, I think a good synopsis of Liam Neeson's character of like,
yeah.
Did you get what
Yeah.
you wanted? Good job. Yeah. So again, like not a super strong gothic guy, but he is what he is.
That's a good point. I wonder if the ending made him, the original ending, this is the big mystery to me, made him look more negative, you know, and then that line is more pointed and it has kind of a downer ending, like he's responsible for her
Yeah.
death
Yeah. Yeah.
instead of her doing it herself for some weird reason.
Right. It's yeah. Yeah. I mean, I definitely blame him for, spoiler alert, poor Owen Wilson getting his head knocked off.
I was like, this is a PG-13 movie, and yeah. Owen Wilson just got decapitated. I could
and you,
not
like, see his head
believe it. It was again for an R-rated movie, it would not be graphic, but for a PG-13 movie, that was really graphic.
It's pretty graphic. Because I thought he was gonna catch on fire. Like again, like I think I've seen this movie before, but I knew he was gonna die, and I think it was because I had seen this movie. Like I just knew the whole movie. I was like, he's dying, he's dead, womp womp. So when that scene was happening, I just assumed a fire was gonna start and it was gonna, like, you know, cut to their faces like, oh my god, oh no. But no, he gets his head decapitated by a statue of a lion with an open mouth. Incredible.
Yes, this is a good transition to the house because they're in this fireplace that the interior of this fireplace is probably larger than my actual apartment.
Yes, it's enormous.
Like, like you would have to burn like an entire log cabin to set a fire in this fireplace. Right. And then this lion is the flu. Like I
and it's like inside the fireplace too, so you wouldn't even see it. It's and I think even if you built the biggest fire you could in this fireplace, it probably wouldn't warm the gigantic room they're in. When they do the outside shots of this house, it is so I know I looked into it a little bit, and I'm sure you have more info on it, research king, but like I know that there is like a lot of it is shot in a castle in England. Assuming that a lot of the exterior shots, like parts of it, are CGI. There's no way it's that big, right?
I think it's that big.
Holy shit.
This place is so fucking big. So it's called Harlexton Manor. It
Yeah.
was built in the 14th century.
Wow.
And I love the Wikipedia page calls it a Victorian country house.
Oh, just going to my country house.
But yeah, it's so big. Like it just looks sprawling. Like
Yeah.
it looks like they started building it in the 1300s and like
Yes.
finished in the 1400s and just kept going.
Seriously.
I couldn't believe how big it was.
Yeah. And like you said, earlier, this is a movie where you see a lot of house. You see so much, but even with as much as you see, I think you're only seeing an eighth of this.
Right.
What would this imagined castle be? It's so phenomenally huge.
Mhm.
And just so beautifully decorated. I loved again, so they shot some of it in the castle, but I know a lot of it was also done at like a sound stage. So I don't know if my expectations would be crushed if I went to go visit this castle in England, because I think a lot of what you see, because it's very like it's like it's a perfect, I think, turn of the millennia interpretation of like a gothic castle. Like it's kind of surreal, and it has these
Mhm.
like funky like colors and like patterns, and it's very bizarre. It's almost like, have you heard the term like whimsy goth? It's like this popular
No.
like new like, do you remember in like the 90s and early 2000s, like did you ever know anyone, I had an aunt specifically who was like very much into this aesthetic where it's like the like very like painted like like if you had like someone who had like a mural on their wall and it was like painted suns and stars, and it was sort of that like there's like always a lot of like purples, and it's called whimsy goth because it's like whimsical but it's also gothic. I
Okay.
very much like think that this gothic castle is like whimsy goth turned to a million. Like I think of
Yeah.
whimsy goth as like a very small home cottage aesthetic, but it's like they took that and they like stretched it to be this gigantic castle. It's huge.
Yeah, what if someone who liked Whimsy Goth had $80 million?
Right. Yeah. Seriously. It's
Like
wild.
the money really shows through the set
Mm-hmm.
design. Like
Mm.
I'm not exaggerating when I say I think there's a pair of doors that's like 50 feet tall.
Oh my god. The ones like to her bedroom, like the big that Owen
Mhm.
Wilson is tasked with watching at some point.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
It's like a home for giants.
seriously. And I mean, they do like comment like, "Oh, our rooms are really nice. Like the bathroom's really nice." If I was staying in a room like that, I would be catatonic with amazement. It's
Yeah.
like, how is that real? Like the ceilings are like just insanely vaulted. There's like glass skylights. I love, my favorite part of this movie is the fact that she keeps passing out. She keeps having like freakouts, whatever, Nell. And so they, will put her to bed in her bedroom. Never do they think to put her in a different room when there has to be at least 60 other bedrooms.
Right.
They never put her in another room.
Right.
Like, it's so funny to me, but God, it's just like insane.
And we never even see Owen Wilson's room, I don't
Oh,
think.
yeah, I don't think we do.
Theo and Nell have this conjoined suite.
Yeah.
And we don't see where the other men are.
Yeah,
We
that's true.
have the big common area that has the gigantic fireplace. There's the hallway that seems to have a river running through it. And then the
Okay.
stepstones are like
Books?
stacks of books, but like clearly like sculptures of books because the books would fall if they
Right.
were real books.
I was so confused about that.
They skip
I'm
through
glad you
that.
saw that. Yeah.
Yes. And then there's the like funhouse mirror room. It's also like a
Yes.
carousel.
Yes. There's a lot. and that's the thing about this house too, is it's just so insanely detailed, because even on like parts of the wall that are just like on the side of the screen, like you're not supposed to be paying attention to, there's like intricate carvings. Her headboard, like a big thing that keeps coming up, is that it has all of these like children's faces carved into it. They're so creepy. And they like
Yes.
change expression, and it's so it's so detailed. It's wild.
They must have put those faces in the trailer a lot, because
Yeah.
I vividly remember those faces, even though I had never seen this movie.
Yeah. There was a part where like the camera panned back to them, and like all of these faces were kind of like, like their mouths were open in this, and I audibly went like, ugh. Like it like freaked me out. I was like, oh.
Yeah, but she likes them. They're her
Yeah.
weird, like, siblings.
Right, right. And then of course there's the greenhouse, which is
Yes.
stunning. And it has this huge fountain in the middle with, I'm assuming it's supposed to be like Poseidon, like
Oh,
reclining in it. Yeah.
yes, and a big hand comes out of it and grabs Liam Neeson at one point.
And tries to drown him.
Yes.
Yeah. And I like it because when they first show it, Liam Neeson goes, haha, I wonder what happened to him. And then it tries to kill him. I love that. Yeah, it's like I wish, again, like I said, I think a lot of it was soundstage, but if they like made an experience where you could go and like tour this set, oh, be there in a heartbeat. Are you kidding me? They should have made this into a Verbo.
I don't think there's ever been a movie where I wanted to be on the set this bad.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to explore it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read that they spent $10 million alone just on the sets.
I believe it. I'm surprised it's not more, honestly.
Yeah.
The fact that, you know, I brought it up earlier, the creepy study behind the bookcase. Beautiful. Classic. I love it. Good job.
Also very gothic.
Very gothic. I know we don't have a bonus gothic for that, but like I feel like it doesn't get, the only other place I've ever thought of it is like Scooby-Doo. You know? It's really not a trope that's utilized enough.
This is a really Scooby-Doo house.
It is very Scooby-Doo.
As I said, Ebert really liked the house. And he said that he finds himself recommending it on the basis of its locations, its set, its art direction, its sound design, and the overall splendor of its visuals. And for a 1999 movie, most of the effects still look really good.
Yeah, they're not bad. I mean, there's some parts that you're like, kind of like, you know, but for the most part, like, they hold up.
They hold up. They look goofy, but I feel like they would have looked goofy at the time. Like,
yeah,
there's a couple giant hands that come out and try to grab people. And there's a part, this kind of transitions into the haunt. Because it's almost like the house itself morphs and changes.
Yeah.
And one of a 2-star Letterboxd review, it just says, I like the scene where they gave the house eyes. Because there's a part where like the mirrors turn into eyes and they're glaring at Nell in bed.
It's cute.
It's very cartoonish.
Yeah.
Which also limits the spook aspect of it.
Right. Well, there's this part too where her bedroom mirror window, I mean, it like gets like, you know, it's very typical spooky ghost. It gets like really cold when they're coming out and stuff. Yeah. And so like there's like frost on the window, and then the frost like shows what's the guy's name? Crane.
Hugh Crane.
Hugh Crane, which by the way, every time she screams it, I think she's saying Ukraine. And I'm like, whoa. I didn't know this movie was getting political.
That's why they had to reshoot it for the family ending. They're like, this is getting too political.
Too political.
We have to bring it back to family.
We can't get into Eastern European politics. We can't do it. But so it like shows his face, which by the way, he is just like cartoonishly scary.
He looks like Blanca from Street Fighter, except not green.
He has like these crazy mutton chops.
Like I don't even know if he's played by a human. Like even in the pictures where they show him, I'm like, is he just a CGI character? Like, did they have an actor play him?
Right. I know. I have no idea. He's very stereotypically scary. Like how anyone didn't know that he was evil is, I'm sure everyone knew, but he was
He looks so evil.
yeah, he's a dirty capitalist, so no one cared. Um, but so the window like shows his face, and then the glass like breaks into the room, and then it like gets sucked back, and
Yeah.
that was one of those scenes where I was like, oh, it's CGI. But yeah, they very much what's the word I'm looking for? Like when you give an object like human characteristics.
Anthropomorphized.
Yes,
Anthropomorphized.
exactly. They do that with the house very, very strongly. Yeah.
So, yeah, allegedly they did have someone play him in the 1999 movie. His name
Mm.
was Charles Gunning, and poor Charles Gunning like does look like that.
Oh no. I'm so sorry, Chuck.
He
I
was also best known for playing aliens in Star Trek movies.
oh. Okay, so he found his niche and he ran with it. Good for him.
Yeah, yeah.
Good for him. Yeah, he's a very spooky looking dude. Very spooky. I so and oh yeah, so he's basically the haunt. He's this spooky ghost. He's a ghost who loves hurting ghost children.
Did
It's
he have a
really
coal mine or something, or am I
I think
getting it confused with
he had,
something
I
else?
think, like a factory or something. I don't know if
That's right,
they
with child labor.
yes, yeah. And she finds this really convenient. This is, kind of what I was talking about with the study, where she kind of finds some like semi unhelpful stuff because she finds this like really convenient book that has like a ledger of I think everyone who worked at his factory, and then he very conveniently blacked out the names of the children who he killed, like with their
He kept very
ages.
meticulous records of his murders.
Yeah, I have like I'm not an archivist, but I've done work for local history. Nothing is ever that convenient. That's wild. If I found that on like ancestry.com, I'd be blown away. I'd be like, wow, what a find.
He did the work for her. It was
He
great.
really did. Yeah. So, spooky ghost children. There's a cool scene where she sees a ghost child, but she can only like kind of actually see it because it has this like white billowy curtain over it. So she has a whole conversation, which by the way, though, these kids terrible at holding a conversation. They just keep saying like, Eleanor, help us.
They're very
Some
cryptic children.
Yeah, some context would be amazing.
Yeah.
Like, please.
Too vague.
Too vague.
Well, with all that in mind, do you think this movie is gothic?
I gotta give it gothic.
I think it's pretty gothic. It's very gothic.
Right. How is it not? Like, yeah, kind of the guy part, but like, whatever. The gothic guy is like the least of our concerns with this movie.
Exactly. And he doesn't even need to be. I imagine Stephen King would have made him the focus of it.
Yeah. Right.
And his like tortured nature. Yeah.
Yeah, but she still would have died because of course she would.
Right. But it probably would have been like, her nipples would have gone off an alarm first and then like alerted everybody.
Yeah, so he could like, help people. Oh, thank God, the nipple alarms went off.
Yeah.
In the nick
but
of
it
time.
it would have all been for him, and it would have been a noble sacrifice.
Exactly. So yeah, very gothic, super gothic.
I agree.
What I was
super
thinking
gothic. Tell me.
when I was watching this movie is I was thinking, so with all of this said, I was not super crazy about this movie, but I think very similar to you, it's like I loved that first hour and I loved the house, I loved the castle. I think I've said it before about another movie and I can't remember which one, but like I wish I could like have this movie as like a screensaver because I just like love the visuals and everything. But you know what I was thinking the whole time I was watching this movie? I was like, if this was like Guillermo del Toro's like first movie, like first foray, people would have eaten this shit up. Like it would have been like a cult classic right now. Like they'd be looking at like the set design, they'd be like, oh my God. If it was like directed by someone who went on to do bigger things, I think people would have eaten this shit up.
That's a really good point, because
Yeah.
Mr. De Bont had already had one big flop before, because he did
Mm.
Speed 2, which everyone
Ooh.
hated.
Yeah. Yeah. Yikes.
So I don't think he was not highly esteemed, I don't think.
Right. Yeah. I think that people would have given this movie a lot more leniency if it had had like something behind it, like whether it was the director or like, I don't know, something about it that just would have like made it more of a cult classic.
It was very popular. Like, it was a
Mm,
popular director,
yeah.
summer blockbuster, lots of
Right.
CG, made it easy to
Yes.
hate. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Agreed. And I mean, yeah, the story is not great. Some of the aspects are not great, but I think it's worth it alone just to see the castle.
I agree. I think the first hour especially is pretty
Hmm.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will ride or die for Owen Wilson until the day I die. He's my favorite. I am not, I used to be afraid to admit it, but I think Owen Wilson is like my favorite actor. I love him so much.
You should own it. He's fun in this.
He is. He's fun and he has some nice scenes. So watch it for the house, for how sexy Catherine Zeta-Jones is, and Owen Wilson, and you'll be happy.
And then, yeah, turn it off, especially before the end. The credits have this bizarre upbeat carnival music. What the
Yes.
fuck was that?
Yeah, I was watching this movie on my laptop and I like couldn't reach it in time to turn it off. And I was like, what the fuck is happening?
It was so weird. It's such a
Yeah,
strange choice.
weird choice.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to share about The Haunting?
No, I think I've wrapped up my feelings.
Ah, me too.
Yep.
So we're gonna start a new segment where we have some recommended viewing,
Mm-hmm.
where we have some off-topic chat and we can just talk about what we're watching and what we recommend. So what do you recommend this week, Amanda?
Oh, okay. So let me just preface this by saying I thought that this was supposed to be. I'll do better next podcast.
I didn't
I thought
explain the
that we
segment
were.
very well.
I thought we were supposed to recommend a movie associated with the one we just watched.
Ooh, no, I mean, I love that.
So,
You're even more on topic.
okay, so
Mine is not relevant at all.
when I was watching this movie, all I could think about was, and I haven't seen this movie in years, but I've seen the remake recently, which was awful. All I could think about was Eddie Murphy's Haunted Mansion. Right?
Oh.
Like Eddie Murphy's Haunted Mansion is like the Disney version of this movie.
This movie is just trying to be that quintessential haunted
Yes,
house. Like, it's
it
just
is.
they could have called this movie Haunted House.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So that's where I thought I could not recommend the movie personally. I have not seen it in a long time. I do think I really enjoyed it though. I mean,
I love that. Have
I
you been on
watched
the
it.
ride?
Yes, just the one in Florida in Orlando. My goal would actually be to go on all of them. I love it.
We went to Disney World when I was too young to really remember it, and one of the
Mm,
only things and I don't know if this is a memory or just a memory of my family talking about it,
yeah,
but theoretically, I just cried all the way through the Haunted Mansion.
yeah, that's fair. It can be pretty spooky. I mean, I am not like a Disney adult, and when I say that my dream is to go to all of them, I don't think I'll ever accomplish it just because I don't really want to go to Disney World anymore. It's not a craving of mine,
Mhm.
to any of the Disney parks, I should say. But I was really upset because my brother and sister-in-law went pretty recently and they asked what I wanted for a souvenir. And I said, just anything Haunted Mansion related. And they said that they really couldn't find anything.
Oh,
So,
that's rude.
which is also ridiculous because it was pretty close to the time that the new remake came out, with Owen Wilson. Oh my God, I just put it
In the
together.
new one?
He's in the new one. He's one of him and how hot Lakeith Stanfield are the only two reasons to watch that movie. It was terrible. I saw it in
That's a
theaters.
shame.
I literally almost fell asleep. It was so boring. Um, but yeah, I couldn't believe it. So justice for Haunted Mansion. And if you want to watch The Haunting or you watched it and you're like, wow, I wish that this movie had Eddie Murphy and Owen Wilson not getting decapitated. Watched The Haunted Mansion from I don't even know what year.
I love that.
Yeah, great. Anyways, so what's your not Haunted Mansion movie
Mine has
recommendation?
nothing to do with The Haunting.
I'm
It's just
so
something
excited though.
that I wanted to talk about. So there's a movie on that I found on Tubi
Mm-hmm.
called Bloody Birthday.
Ooh.
And I watched it because we just had a total solar eclipse. And the premise of Bloody Birthday is that 3 children are born during a solar eclipse in 1970.
Ooh.
And because they were born during a solar eclipse, and also Saturn was not in view, and Saturn is the planet that rules your like friendliness and consciousness, they are little child murderers. So when the 3 of them, they all live in the same town together, when they turn 10, they just randomly start banding together and just killing like everyone in town, just blatantly, and no one can catch on to the fact that these kids are doing it.
Oh my God. That sounds
It's
wonderful.
I put a lot of movies on Tubi on just in the
Mm-hmm.
background
Yep.
and see if they draw my attention. And
Mm-hmm.
this one drew my attention.
Really?
It has the child actors are surprisingly good.
Really?
The kids are literally like 10 or 11, 12 when they were filming this, and the shit they
Yeah.
have these kids do is insane. Lots of really clever kills. Lots of the kids are just so extra. It's fantastic.
Oh.
For an 80s movie, there's like so many boobs. There's so many boobs.
For an
It's
80s
like
movies that mostly star children.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Like the girl, so there's one girl and 2 boys that are the killer
Uh-huh.
kids. The girl loves to strangle people with her jump rope. And then one of the boys has a gun. He just likes to shoot them. And
Incredible.
then the third one's just kind of there. He doesn't really do a
Mm.
lot. He's kind of the lamest killer kid. But
Loser.
the girl is really good, but she charges the boys a quarter to watch her sister change through this peephole that they have in the closet.
Oh, wow. Incredible.
And then she later shoots her sister through the eye with an arrow through the same peephole in a scene that is so brutal and mean-spirited. Like, it was really good.
Oh my God, I have to watch this. That sounds
highly
incredible.
highly recommend Bloody Birthday. It was a treat.
Oh,
And it's
I'm
on
so
Tubi.
excited. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so enjoy.
Yeah, great recommendation.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Amanda. And thank you, Ghosties, for listening to us break down The Haunting. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, and please share our show with a friend. Until next time, stay ghosty. Boo bye.
Bye.